Hello, it is New Year's Day 2021. I'm headed to my friend Joe's house. This is my last free weekend for a while, so it's kind of my last chance. I don't know if it's a good chance, but it's my last chance for a bit to get some significant work done on the Jeep. So I've got finally all the components for my Skyjacker 3-inch lift kit, and I've got some bar pin eliminators for the shocks, which are the Skyjacker like 7,800 or 8,000 hydro shocks that came with the kit. Yeah, so that's where we're at. Start the new year off right by getting some projects done. So check in shortly. Just clearing out some garage space to work today, but I wanted to get a measurement first to have a reference. So because I am certain that I've lost some height in the old suspension. That combined with a 3-inch lift in the new suspension, I'm expecting on this back end to gain about 5 inches. I want to see how close I am. So let's take a measurement here. To the fender, we're looking to be about 28 3/4. This is on the driver's side rear. Now let's go around. About the same for the rear on both sides. A caveat to those suspension measurements that I just took, the old suspension, is that I do have all the new components still in the back of the Jeep. So that is doing some compression. I don't know how much, but there is at least 150 pounds of extra weight back there. All right, video update. So I got started on the passenger rear and ran into some problems. So the bolt in the very rear was put in from the inside out, and with the tow hitch added on, the bolt couldn't come out all the way. So there's two options: take off the tow hitch, which sounded like a lot of work, or cut the bolt and get a new one and feed it in from outside in. So that's what I elected to do. The advantage of being at Joe's house is he has a plasma cutter that makes cutting bolts really easy. So we got that done, and then the front one just couldn't get to turn, so we had to get fancy with that. So we had to cut the at the shackle on the leaf spring. We had to cut that with the plasma, and then we had to burn out the rubber bushing, and then we were able to get it out just enough to get a pry bar behind it and start leveraging while the air gun worked it out. And we were able to eventually get it out with started with a pry bar, then went to a wrench, and then went to 4 wrenches, and then 4 wrenches and the pry bar. But we were able to get it. But the bolt, which I just happen to have here, it did come out in one piece, but you can see it's a little bit skinny on the shaft, a lot of rust, and so we decided to replace that as well, get a better fit. So we just visited Cal Ranch, got some nice grade 8s, 5-inch. They're not automotive bolts, but they are the proper durability, so they will work. And we got 4, because just assuming that we're gonna have similar problems with the other side. So we're gonna go fix the brake leak while we've got easy access, and then get the first leaf spring put in. There we are, update number 1. Okay, update number 2. It's been like 10 minutes.
15.
Okay, 15 according to Joe. We got back to the house, and the bolts we bought from Cal Ranch were 1/2 inch by 5 inch. And we put the bolt on, the nut on the bolt, and it was really loose fitting and made us a little bit concerned. And then tried it also in the front one, and it was also just too loose, so they were the wrong bolts. So we went to Napa and happened to find, the problem was we used a standard bolt, but we needed metric because, you know, Jeep likes to combine standard and metric. So, but we did find at Napa the right one, 14 mil. The threads match, they're perfect. So that is update number 2. Alright, forget the noise of the heater, but I just noticed this. We finally got everything squared up on the passenger side. Getting started on the driver's side, and just noticed this shock. Yeah, they are not supposed to bend that way. So, good thing I got new ones. Alright, time to get this tired old boy out. On to the next. Alright, it's just about 3 a.m. We had a long haul, but we got the rear suspension done. You can see it is slanted forward, and it is kind of funny. Although those tires don't look as small as I anticipated. But I was estimating about 5 inches of lift with the new lift kit because of the worn out suspension. It was 28 3/4 measured with this same tape. And our measurement now looks like we are right on 33. So 29 to 33, 4 inches. Wow. Hair over 4 inches difference. Let's check the other side. They were the same. Let's see if they're still the same. So the wheel well, we're right at 33 inches. Whew. Okay, so we got a good 4 inches lift. Okay, update time. So it's been 2 weeks since I put the lift kit on the Jeep. We got the rear on in about, well, probably about 10 hours, 12 hours or so. When we finished the rear, of course, the rear was higher than the front, and when I drove it home, and it really drove relatively well, except that the front was really squishy from all the worn out components, and the rear was really stiff from those brand new springs. But other than that, it drove relatively well. Once we got the front end back on, a slight disappointment is that the front end is higher than the back end by around 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches. So it looks kind of funny. So that is something that I need to address, which I have. There were 2 options for that. Get longer shackles for the rear leaf, and adjustable ones, and just drop it down. Or the option I decided to go with was to get rear shackle relocation brackets, which give you about 1.5 inch drop, according to forums and reports, and so which should be just about right to level it out. And the other reason I decided to go with the drop brackets is because that allows me to set the angle of the shackle. Right now it's fairly straight, and I have learned that that leads to a fairly stiff ride because the shackle doesn't have any place to move. And with these new brackets, drop brackets, I can put the shackle at a 45-degree angle, a 33-degree angle, something like that, and I can somewhat get the ride to change soft or hard. Even though I now have all new suspension, I've got the same problem, although less noticeable, that the front is still a much softer ride than the back. So I'm hoping these drop brackets and changing the angle of those shackles will pretty much solve that and even it out. So I've been debating since I last worked on the Jeep what big project I wanted to attack next. The front with mainly the hubs and the U-joints, or the back with the Shackle relocation brackets. And I've decided today I'm gonna go ahead and take a gander at the back. The one problem with the back is that I do have to do some drilling, and the gas fill neck is in the way on the driver's side. So I'm gonna try to do that side first because the other one will be a breeze after that. I did try the shackle bolts, the upper shackle bolt specifically, and the one on the passenger side, I did get some movement, some cracking with the rust, but movement nonetheless, so that'll come out. Driver's side, not quite so lucky. Okay, so I've run into two problems with this Shackle relocation install. Number one, this upper bolt right here, I cannot get that to budge for the life of me. I've tried a couple different means of leverage and torque, and I got nothing out of that one. And then I just realized that this gas filler neck skid plate bracket, whatever, right here, it's held on by 4 bolts, 2 right there, and then 2 that are right here. And they are underneath the tow package bracket that was installed aftermarket. And so I can get the bolts out. They're accessible. There's cutouts there, you can see. But this plate's going to be squished up underneath that bracket. And so I'm still not going to be able to get that out and get that out of the way enough to drill the 2 holes on that face that I'm going to need to. All right, so I'm here working on the driver's side. I'm at Joe's, so I've got good tools. But that metal sleeve in the bushing is stuck to the bolt. And as I don't know how well you can tell on camera, but it's actually bending my bracket out as I'm trying to back out the bolt. So look, you can see that slit in the bushing. I'm going to try and take a screwdriver, tap it in there, and then maybe try some penetrating fluid, see if we can get that metal sleeve to break from the bushing. Metal sleeve to break from the bolt. All right, so one of the things I did not want to happen, happened. That sleeve, tried to hit it with some penetrating oil, but it eventually broke through the bracket. So, but that shouldn't be too disastrous. Just make sure we have a good washer or something when we put the new one on. Fortunately, the relocation brackets I got came with new bolts, so I don't need to particularly save this one. Anyway, I'll finish backing it out. As you can see, I already got the bolt out of the spring on the other side, so I can pull them out and get the bushing out and put my new poly bushings in. All right, we got the sleeve off. It took some heat and some PB Blaster, and you can see how much, well, pitting is in the bolt itself, but you can see how much rust came out of that. Now, unfortunately, I do have to reuse these, so I'm gonna hit it with the wire wheel and clean it up, and that and some grease in new bushings should solve any of that issue. But yep, that's why that sleeve was locked up. So just a quick note, you can barely see right here that there is an indentation. If I get to the right angle, there you go. Indentation right here. And that indentation is mirrored in the sleeve of this bushing. So I don't know how plausible it is to actually drift these out. What we've elected to do, Joe and I, is use a reciprocating saw, and I'm cutting right on the seam here, this weld. So that gives me a little bit of room, and that gives enough relief that we can punch it out with a punch after that. So I'm not sure they'll drift out with that mark in there, at least definitely not easily. So I ended up having to burn out the rubber, which is a smelly and dirty process, but and to that end, I will say MAP gas is the way to go. Propane torch is not sufficient. MAP gas made very quick work of the second one especially. So let me get to cutting, and then I'll get to pushing it out after that. All right, so I've got the first bracket on. This is on the passenger side, but I don't have the leaf hooked on yet. A little bit of paint on those shackles, cleaned them up quite a bit, and then I've got, as you can see, new bushings. And just based on this being pretty much what I would consider full extension, wanting to have about a 45-degree angle, I'm thinking that the bracket needs to go in this second hole right here. And once it's under load, I anticipate that that will put it at about that 45-degree angle that I'm after. So that's what I'm going for. We'll try it. All right, so it took some doing, quite a bit longer than I hoped, but it's in. The Shackle relocation brackets. The Jeep is down on the ground, so this is at normal load, and that's pretty close to a 45-degree angle, just what I'd like. And our new measurement. New measurement, shade under 35. 34 3/4-ish. So I'll have to go check the previous video what the height was before, but I think it was about 33. So we're up about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, I believe. That's perfect. And now you can see, if I can get far enough back, here we go, that I'm now raking slightly forward, which is how I would like it. So I think it's just about where I want it. So happy day.